Welcome into Three-Man Front here on a chilly Wednesday, an early National Signing Day Wednesday. We appreciate you being here with us until 2 o'clock. I am Conrad Van Order alongside Damian Mitchell and Molly Robinson as Pat and Landrum decided they didn't want to work today.
Yeah, I understand that the 7A state championship is today. I don't know why Pat is out. Hewitt Trussell didn't make it there.
He said he had some leaves to take care of.
I mean, I'm here
in the yard.
Yeah, because you like the grind. Like you don't mind showing up to work.
No, not at all.
I don't know why Landrum's out.
Some broadcast for Super 7 or something like that.
Side gig?
Yeah, something like that. But all kidding aside, Pat and Landrum, they are out today enjoying some well-deserved time off. Landrum, of course, he will be part of the Super 7 broadcast coming up later today as we have the kind of the conclusion of the high school football season.
Is he only doing 7A? Or is he got all 3 days?
He's doing a few.
I hope he's got the 1A game. You know who's playing in that one?
Maplesville.
Yes, sir.
Who are they playing?
They're playing Wadley, a team that beat the brakes off of us last year.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was ugly. They had, I think, like 347 total yards, and 347 came on the ground.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember you being pretty distraught about that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's New Year.
Exactly. Yeah. And we listen. We'll talk to Kyle Parmalee a little bit later because he keeps a nice read of the room when it comes to high school sports. But no, I'm pretty excited for tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it should be a big one. A lot of great games going on here in Birmingham around the Birmingham area for the next couple of days as we put a bow on things for the high school football season. And as Damian mentioned, we will talk to Kyle Parmalee. Normally talk to him on Fridays. This week, we're going to talk to him today at 1:15 and get some of his thoughts on those championship games going on in the high school ranks. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to talk with Chris Stewart. He's normally with us at 11 on Wednesdays, a little early today, but we're going to get his thoughts, obviously, on the Iron Bowl win for Alabama and what awaits them this weekend in Atlanta and beyond with the college football playoff looking essentially like a lock now for the Crimson Tide. We'll get into that in a minute. And then Brian Edwards will join us at 10:45, giving us his favorite plays for conference championship weekend. But I did mention the Alabama Crimson Tide, and that is where we will start today, Damian. Because the big news last night, we had the penultimate edition of the college football playoff rankings. Sunday will be Selection Sunday. That's when we will officially know who has stamped their ticket to the college football playoff and who will be on the outside looking in. I pat myself on the back a little bit here because yesterday we were talking about this on the show, and I was the only one that said I believed Alabama would move up over Notre Dame as a result of them winning the Iron Bowl and securing a spot in the SEC championship. I was right.
As they should.
I was right. So sorry, I just had to give myself a little pat on the back.
It's all
for
good,
that.
brother.
But Alabama, they jump up one spot, so they're now number 9, Damian. Notre Dame falls to number 10. So you have to imagine if Alabama, regardless of the result, barring 35-0 blowout loss, perhaps, looks like Alabama's going to be in the college football playoff. ESPN giving them a 97% chance of making the field. So that was the big takeaway last night. Were you surprised by that? Do you think that – I know a lot of people are upset, and a lot of people last night, Notre Dame fans obviously, well, how could Alabama be ahead of Notre Dame? This doesn't make any sense. No, what doesn't make sense is that it took this long for Alabama to be ahead of Notre Dame. If you're upset about the rankings last night, I don't think you should be upset at Alabama or Notre Dame. You should be upset at the committee because they overreacted, it seems like, to the Oklahoma loss, and they corrected that last night.
Yep, you hit the nail right on the head, and that's why it wasn't surprising that they finally did it. I think the biggest question mark is why did it take so long for you to get to this point?
Yep.
Because when you look at the metrics and everything as far as, who these teams have played, the ranked wins that Alabama has, to your point, it was the immediate response to Oklahoma knocking off Alabama that knocked them down, and nobody could give you a logical reason. Because, again, at that point, Oklahoma was a top 12 football team in college football, and yet you punished Alabama, and as poorly as they played, you talk about game control and things like that. As poorly as Alabama played, they lost by 2 points. So it wasn't like they went out, they went out there and got blown out. It was a competitive matchup. And yeah, the ball just didn't go your way. And they still had a chance to win the football game on the last drive. So I think a lot of the immediacy of, Alabama needs to be knocked down because of that. And, people are saying, oh, well, they've knocked off a 5-7 Auburn team. It's a rivalry week. It's rivalry game because it wasn't like Georgia went out there and just blow Georgia Tech out either. So I think when you encompass everything that has happened, the committee finally got it right when it came to the 2 lost teams and where they ranked them. It just, the fact that it took this long for them to get to this point is probably still the biggest the biggest question mark that you have.
Yeah, and we've seen this in years past, right, where they'll kind of go back to, it's almost like the opposite argument, right, that we were having of, well, what if Alabama made the championship game, lost, and then got left out of the playoff, right? Well, they're not going to have an SEC championship anyway, whatever. It was going to have big ramifications, we felt like, across college football. It's just funny. It's the exact opposite of what happened 11 years ago, right, where you had the last week of the rankings. It was going to be Baylor or TCU in a playoff. Ohio State goes to a conference championship, smokes Wisconsin 59-0. They get put in. They win a national championship. Baylor and TCU get left out. So what do they do in response? They create a Big 12 title game, and now we're kind of at the opposite end of that spectrum 11 years later. So it's very interesting to see. But we did get to hear from Hunter Yurachek last night as he was on the broadcast with Reese Davis and others. And this was Hunter Yurachek. The first question he was asked on the broadcast, pretty simple. Why did Alabama get the nod over Notre Dame in last night's rankings?
Reese, I will tell you the debate between Alabama and Notre Dame over the past 3 weeks has been one of the strongest debates we've had in the room for the past 2 years that I've been a member of the committee. And I think this week, as we looked at those two teams and how closely they have been over the past 3 weeks, Notre Dame went on the road, had a strong win at Stanford, but Alabama went on the road in a rivalry game, looked really good, especially in the first half, getting up 17-0, ran the ball well. Auburn came back at them. They had a great gutsy call on 4th and 2 late in the third quarter to get a touchdown, and then got the turnover late in that game. And I think that was enough to change the minds of a couple of committee members to push Alabama up ahead of Notre Dame in this week's ranking.
So there you go, Hunter Yurachek, a busy man, hired a head coach on Sunday and doing the college football rankings yesterday. And I know a lot of people are probably not going to be upset with him today if you're an Alabama fan because you're happy about the results. That is just a weird explanation. Again, like, I get it, right? They brought up the negatives of the run game, but you see that in one game, and now all of a sudden it's a talking point for Alabama. I do like that they give them credit, right? Again, if you want to say, well, Alabama didn't deserve credit, Auburn was a 5-6 football team going into that game. The committee gave Indiana props for beating Penn State a couple of weeks ago, right? So if we're going to do both of these sides of it, you don't have to like it, but at least, I guess they're being a little more transparent there. So Alabama looks like they're going to be in the college football playoff. A lot of people really, really excited about that. Some of the other takeaways quickly, and we'll get into some crazy scenarios that could potentially present themselves on Sunday a little bit later on in the show. But some of the other big takeaways that you had, Ole Miss, they actually move up a spot. So Texas A&M, they fall from 3 to 7. Ole Miss and not getting punished for Lane Kiffin's departure. Good on the committee. We talked about it on the morning show today, Damian. I know people want to compare it to FSU a few years ago. It's a little different. I think losing a starting quarterback, especially one of Jordan Travis's caliber, was more impactful in a negative sense to that team than losing your head coach. Not saying that Lane Kiffin's not important to what Ole Miss has done this year, but
Lane don't play.
If you're telling me I can go in a playoff without my head coach or my starting quarterback, I'm going to say, all right, coach, we'll see you later.
Exactly.
We'll get somebody to step in.
And again, I don't know how that became a talking point because to me, I think the more, like you said, the impact on the field is more detrimental than a coach on the sideline. Not to say that Lane is an elite offensive talent, offensive mind, but why would Ole Miss be punished in that situation when this is all Lane's decision? Like this is a head coaching decision that he made. Like it's not like Ole Miss and the players were just like, "No, we're just going to do it without you this week." Because again, like we've seen in years past, and going back to the 2020 season. Nick Saban had COVID. Steve Sarkisian steps in the Iron Bowl. Nothing changed.
Michigan a couple years ago.
Right. When John Harbaugh was suspended.
And Sharon Moore was crying after the game.
It's like nothing changed. The players are still the same, bro. Like,
that was good.
The players make the plays. Like it'd been something different if Trinidad Chambliss was hurt or Keywan Lacey had to be or was out or something, or even somebody on the defensive side. Like that's more of an impact than the head coach not being on the sideline, because everything else as far as order of operation is still the same, because everything else is still the same.
No, I agree with what you said 100% there. And who knows, maybe this helped, but it was announced yesterday that Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to stay with Ole Miss through the playoff. And then it's believed he will go and join Lane and LSU. But maybe that, help, right? You have a little more continuity on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe that's what, allowed them to stay where they are.
Is that not wild? In
Well,
the
that's kind
grand
of my
scheme
thing.
of it.
Would you not, if you're Lane, just say, all right, go back and do a good job, but while you're there, let's kind of plant the seed with some of these kids of.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a soap opera. We're watching a soap opera in Oxford, Mississippi. Everybody laughs at me for watching The Young and the Restless. This is exactly the football version of it, because one, you tell Lane Kiffin he ain't welcome back.
Yeah.
Charlie Watts Jr. hops on the plane to go to LSU to be his offensive coordinator down there in Baton Rouge. We were like, all right, we'll let you come back. And
it's a little bizarre.
It is. And if you're Pete Golden, it's like, hey, conversations are going to be very limited in this room. This is what our plan is. If you're back, you have to be 100% here.
Mm-hmm.
You almost have to turn in your phone records. It's at some point. Like, you got to run that thing very militaristic in as far as, hey man, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to be about it. The moment that the clock hits zero, whether win or lose, and our season is over, you can hop back on down to Baton Rouge and handle your business.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, you've got about 17 days now before you play that playoff game. That's a lot of time to have some conversations with the players and maybe even some coaches that are still there in Oxford. Moving on with the college football playoff, I think last night they clearly told you that if Duke wins the ACC, they are opening the door for 2 Group of 5 teams to get in. North Texas and Tulane, they're going to play in the American Conference title game. Winner's going to make the playoff, no doubt about that. And then James Madison, if they're able to win the Sun Belt, they're in the top 25 now. They are likely to also get in, which would leave the ACC out potentially entirely. And that also brings us to Miami, where I know, that's still been a big topic of conversation, and we can dive into that more a little bit later in the show. But I will just say this right now for Miami. If you're the Bama haters of the world, it is of my personal opinion that if Texas Tech wins the Big 12 championship game, Miami will make the playoff, because then they will move Miami up right behind Notre Dame. And at that point, Hunter Yurchek said it last night. It's a lot easier to compare head-to-head wins when the teams are ranked right next to each other. If they're ranked right next to each other, there is no way they can ignore the head-to-head result. So if you are a Miami fan, I think you really, really want to pull for Texas Tech. And I believe that they will do the right thing, put Miami in the playoff, and that would leave Notre Dame on the outside looking in. But we'll get into all that, some other crazy scenarios potentially that could present themselves on Selection Sunday later on in the show. But we have a 3-man front Twitter poll question of the day, Molly, as we do each and every day here on the program. And what is today's question?
Yeah, which fan base has the biggest gripe after last night's college football playoff rankings? Is it Notre Dame, BYU, Miami, or Texas? And speaking of Miami and Bama hater, Miami is the winning result right now with 65% of our voters, about 17 saying Notre Dame, 12 saying Texas, and only 6% with BYU.
Not surprised it's Miami. I have to say, I have found it very comical the amount of Texas fans in the last 12 hours or so that are, why are we not ahead of Alabama? We beat Oklahoma. We should be ahead of both of them. Well, you have 3 losses and they have 2. So that's kind of how Texas is in the same spot that Alabama was in last year. And it's not a fun spot to be in, but it is unfortunately the spot that they are in. So, Molly, it's also getting chilly this time of the year. So tell our listeners what can help them out there.
Yeah, like Conrad said, you don't want to get caught in the cold, especially this time of year. So schedule your system checkup now from a Train comfort specialist. Train has been recognized for 11 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jock. So go and visit Train.com to find a comfort specialist near you.
All right, it's early signing day. We've got a lot to monitor here as the show moves along. But before we get to all of that, Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide, tells us what to expect in Atlanta, the rematch between Alabama and Georgia. We talk to him next on 3-Man Front. 10:17. Welcome back into Three-Man Front. Conrad, Damian, and Molly are running the show today. We'll be with you until 2 o'clock as we give you all the latest from early signing day, some more coaching changes and hires being announced around the college football world, and, of course, more of our thoughts and your reaction to the college football playoff as Alabama, they move up one spot last night, looking really, really good for the Crimson Tide now as they head to Atlanta for the SEC Championship. Probably going to be in the playoff regardless, but you would certainly like to win this one. And I agree with what Greg said on the broadcast last night. If Alabama wins on Saturday and they are the SEC champions, I do think that they will be the fourth and final one seed or first round bye, I guess, so to speak, in the college football playoff. But time will tell. So before we do that, let's talk to the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, one Chris Stewart, and he is brought to us each and every week by our good friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah, the big dog's got it.
Crimson Tide Network's Chris Stewart on Three-Man Front is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it. The big dog's got it. And now, Chris Stewart.
And here he is, the voice of the Crimson Tide. Chris Stewart joins us each and every Wednesday here on the program. Chris, how are you feeling after another Iron Bowl win, the sixth straight for the Crimson Tide?
Exhausted still, draining, but still smiling as well. It was great to win that game. It always is, whether there's anything on the line beyond the Iron Bowl itself. But to get that done there. To win a sixth in a row in the series, to get a spot in the SEC championship game, and now in a good position as far as college football playoff as well. Feeling very good, but still a lot of work to be done as Alabama's got that familiar foe coming up on Saturday.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're all looking forward to that, and we'll talk to you, get your thoughts on that rematch here in just a little bit. But I did want to go back to the Iron Bowl. As you said there, we all knew, right, it was going to be a difficult matchup going into Jordan-Hare. Auburn with nothing to lose, Alabama with essentially everything to lose, but they squeak out the win 27-20. What was maybe the biggest surprise for you of the way that game played out, whether it was Alabama's running game, special teams coming through for them, or the fact that you were able to win on a turnover late? What kind of surprised you about Alabama and their victory on Saturday?
I'm not sure there were a ton of surprises. I was pleased to see the run game be what it was. And I guess if you're pointing to one, that's a really good defense. And to have one of your better, more productive run games in that situation, I would say there's probably a little bit of a surprise right there. Conrad, that's tough to say. I'm really pleased to see that. Here's one where when you weren't as efficient overall offensively, and maybe as many big plays as you're accustomed to have some of the issues that you had, and yet still find a way to get the job done in that environment and in that circumstance. Very pleased to see that happen. This was obviously not Bama's best offensive performance, but got it done when they had to, especially the 4th and 2 play, obviously. And that final drive as a whole. I talked with Coach DeBoer about this on his TV show after the game and said, the two previous long drives had only resulted in 3 points. And when I say long, I'm talking about time off the clock. To have a phenomenal, 7.5-minute drive and to be able to cap it with 7 rather than just 3, absolutely huge in that situation, in that circumstance, and phenomenal to see the defense, win the turnover battle, or the team win the turnover battle, but the defense forcing to and really forcing that second turnover in an unbelievable way, and to not turn it over despite some of the issues that we had on offense. Awfully big.
And Chris, going back to the Iron Bowl and actually kind of projecting towards this SEC championship with Georgia, what concerns do you have both offensively and defensively going into the rematch with Georgia, as we know that they knocked them off in Athens, but what makes this one a little bit different on both sides of the ball?
They've gotten better, I think, since the first matchup, and we've still got some things. I say left in the tank. I mean, there's still room for improvement. Is probably the better way of putting it. We better have something left in the tank if you're going to get there. But they are so good. They adjust well. Really skilled, tough, physical, and the hope is that they don't start leaning on you in a way physically that just wears you down and you're not able to stop them the way we've been able to stop most teams over the course of the season. But we've got to also, there are going to be big play opportunities, and you can't afford to miss. I thought one of the biggest things in the first matchup was on the opening drive when Ryan Williams dropped a touchdown pass, what would have been a sure touchdown pass on the deep ball, less than 5 plays into the game. And yet they still capped that with, I believe, a 16-play drive and punched it in the end zone. I thought that sent such a huge message. But the reality is, if you get those opportunities Saturday, or when you get those opportunities Saturday, you can't afford to miss. So hopefully, on that stage, in that environment, the things that are there are going to be taken advantage of by Alabama's offense.
Well, that's a perfect segue, Chris, because that's something that I wanted to ask you about, because it feels like, obviously, we know social media is a different beast, but Ryan Williams was a big topic of conversation after the Iron Bowl, not getting any targets, not being in the box score like you would normally expect to see him be. But we know he is going to be an integral part of this offense moving forward for Alabama if they are going to reach their ultimate goals of making the playoff, winning the SEC, and competing for a national championship. Just you being around the team and being around some of those players, what's kind of can you tell us what the mindset is of a Ryan Williams? Because it seems on social media, everybody's kind of ready to write him off. But I think we all know that him inside that locker room and the players around him know how important he is and are expecting big things from him in the next couple of games.
Well, look, I was only in the indoor facility watching practice for about 15 minutes before I stepped out to talk to you guys, and I will simply say he didn't look like he's out of the game plan to me. So I think that he is, anytime he steps onto the field, he is one of, if not the most dangerous potential weapon that's out there. We also know that he's battled some injuries over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And his presence alone, I think, causes problems for an opposing defense because they've got to account for him. The reason that Alabama's in the position they're in, though, is there's not one player that has been there's not just one player you have to concern yourself with. In my opinion, that is as deep and talented a position as Alabama has on its roster. That receiver group is loaded with guys who are capable of doing great things, and they have. And if you are able to get out of him what we know he's capable of, it's a group that I think is frankly unstoppable. But that requires everybody doing their job. The line giving time, the running backs and helping in pass protection, guys running the right routes so that you're accounting for everybody, and obviously Ryan making the play when it does come to him. So I fully believe that'll happen, and I'm glad he's wearing an Alabama uniform on Saturday.
And Chris, final question for me. In the event that Alabama does knock off Georgia, how do you think it's done? What do you think specifically is the key in Alabama pulling off the victory over Georgia this weekend?
It's kind of simple, but I do think taking care of the football and maximizing your scoring opportunities is going to be incredibly critical. 3 points in this game, as it normally is, and as it has been lately for Alabama, 3 points when you can get them will be huge. When you should get 7, when you're in the spot to get 7, you got to get those. But making sure those drives in kicks are extremely important, in my opinion, as much in this game as they ever are.
All right, Chris, we'll let you get out of here after this one. Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on Three Man Front, thanks to Craneworks. So I saw the video, of you and Kalen DeBoer on the field after the game, and he looked like he was just as happy as could be after that win over the Iron Bowl. And I know there's been a lot of people that have maybe scrutinized him over the last 2 years. Some people, when he got hired, were uncertain about it. But here we are at the end of his second regular season. I know it's looked different, but you go back to Nick Saban, the end of his second season, right? He was playing for an SEC championship. Kalen DeBoer doing the same thing with this team. Just kind of what can you tell the audience about what you've learned about Kalen DeBoer, and how impressed are you with the job that he's done since taking over, and especially this year after the Florida State loss, to have this team where they are right now? He's done, in my opinion, an exceptional job.
The short answer is I agree with you. Extremely impressed, and the consistency that he has in terms of going about his business every day, and with this team, not getting too high when things are good, not getting too low when things are down, being a steady leader for this team. But I think he has shown a great ability to adapt and adjust, not to who he is, but to maybe what the team needs. And we saw a little more, and I don't know that we saw more fire from him, but I think there was more of a spotlight on it. So many times people determine their opinions of a coach based on what they see. When the director decides to cut to a shot of them on television, because that's all they see.
Yeah.
The explosions that Nick Saban would have, be it in a press conference or on the field, weren't constant, weren't all the time, but you never missed them because they were always looking for it. There are a lot of times where Kalen DeBoer has shown a lot of emotion, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I would glance towards a TV monitor and it may not be shown. So this is not brand new for him. But what you saw at the end of or that clip that's gone viral, that was actually the very last segment of the show, and it's one we've done for years. And I apologize for the noise for just a second. But at the end, the last segment of the show for the Coach's TV show, whether it was Coach Saban or now with Coach DeBoer, it's a sponsored segment looking at what's next. And the setup for that was what's next, because of what happened on Saturday, is the SEC championship game. And he looks at me, and there's a pause, which was different. And then when he grabs me and shakes my arm and says, "Let's go," it was very different. It obviously caught me off guard, but it was something that I got a kick out of, and I think everybody else did too. And yeah, here's the thing: when you play as well as his team has for the majority of the season, and you have something really good happen and allows you to celebrate the success, that's good to see, because those guys deserve it. It's the same way. It was a different deal, different circumstances, but in the 4 overtime win against Auburn, in the 4th and 31 against Auburn, the smile on Nick Saban's face and the relief that I sensed from him in getting the win, and the enjoyment of getting the win because of the way his guys fought, may not have been, he didn't grab me and shake me. Coach didn't, although I'm sure he probably wanted to for bad reasons many times. But it's different, but it was the same. And how they express it may be a little different. But, man, it was a great moment, one that I'll never forget, and hope that even though we're not doing a TV show again the rest of the year, I hope when I'm doing some radio interviews, I get similar reaction for him over the next potentially month and a half.
Absolutely. Well said, Chris. Appreciate you sharing that with us because I know that was a special moment for you and Coach DeBoer and so many Alabama fans that got to enjoy that. But we appreciate you joining us each and every week here on the show, Chris, and it couldn't be done without our great friends at Craneworks.
Yeah, they're terrific, and I really appreciate David Upton. Heard from him this week, and just appreciate what Craneworks does and the way they do it. They're the most trusted name for crane and equipment rental in the Southeast, have been for over 30 years, a fleet of cranes ranging from 2.5 to 500 tons. They've got trained and certified operators making sure the job is done right for you. Locations Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and now up in Huntsville as well. For more information, go to craneworks.com.
That is Chris Stewart, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Have a great call this weekend, Chris, and hopefully I'll run into you in Atlanta on Saturday.
Thank you, buddy. Hope so, too. Be good. Don't wear the pilgrim outfit, though, please.
I will not, Chris. Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, man. See ya. That is Chris Stewart, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, joining us each and every week here on Three Man Front.
You going to Atlanta?
I will be there.
I think you should wear it.
What happens on road games?
It's Bryant Denny East. It's different.
Gotcha.
It's different. Now, if they were playing Oklahoma, I'd be sitting my ass at home. I'll tell you that right now. But they are not. So, yes, I will be in Atlanta. But we appreciate Chris giving us his thoughts on the Alabama Crimson Tide. But how about the Auburn Tigers, right? We talked a lot about Alabama. Great time to be an Alabama fan. A lot of optimism about the rest of the season. But Auburn got some great news yesterday about 2026 and beyond. We'll tell you what it is next on Three Man Front. Well, welcome back into Three Man Front. Appreciate you joining us here on a Wednesday. and a busy Wednesday with early signing day going on. We'll get into all of that. We got a lot to bring you on signing day. We're going to get to that at 11 o'clock as we'll give you all the coverage, what's going on with Alabama and Auburn, and one school in particular that had national championship aspirations this year and is now in a really, really, really rough spot. But we'll get into all that in the 11 o'clock hour. But we've been talking about Alabama, so let's talk a little bit about Auburn and some of the good things going on. The Plains, Damian. The big news yesterday that we found out, got a release from DJ Durkin, Alex Golish, and John Cohen, all releasing statements yesterday. But DJ Durkin will be retained as the defensive coordinator at Auburn. So heading into next year, you got to feel pretty good about Alex Golish leading the charge. We expect that Cody Burns, a former Auburn player, obviously, but had a lot of success with Alex Golish at USF. He will be the OC, and DJ Durkin will be the defensive coordinator. So, again, a lot can change. We got to find out what the roster is going to look like, transfer portal, all that good stuff. But as far as the staff goes right now, and by the way, Vontrell King-Williams is also going to be retained for the defensive line. Things looking really good, I would say, for the first couple days of the Alex Golish tenure.
Yeah, and I think Auburn fans are relieved to know that DJ Durkin is still going to be an integral part of the success moving forward because of, no matter how you slice it up. Yeah, they may have lost to both Vanderbilt and Alabama, but the overall product looked better.
Yeah.
Now, defense did take a little bit of a step back, but that's because he had to take on more roles and be the head guy. But I think for Alex Golish, the continuity that you're going to have defensively that you don't have to worry about, it's like, hey, DJ, you know what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to operate. You got it. Let's build these things on up. Offensively, I got you from here on out. So I think that the continuity of having DJ Durkin there and just the expectation, because again, this defense, even going back to 2 years ago, there were moments they were putting it together. And then this past year, you saw that, yeah, this is legit. Like this was a great defense for Auburn. And it just kind of fell by the wayside because of how it all ended, and especially on the offensive side when you're put in all these different situations where your defense had their backs against the wall. And for the most part, they answered the call, but towards the end, it started to sputter out a little bit. And again, even going back to the Iron Bowl, they made Alabama earn every single yard they got. They made Ty Simpson look uncomfortable. But I think it gives you a little bit of hope of, all right, if there are guys that are on the fence in the locker room of, I may have 1 foot out, want to stay in. I want DJ Durkin to stay. You got that nipped in the bud. So now you leave it up to the players to make the decisions on whether they want to stay or they want to go. But either way, the defense is going to be locked down.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's a big get there for Auburn as they are able to keep some key members of that defensive staff. And it was nice. They already posted pictures of Golish and Durkin hanging out and laughing in the office and just having the best of friends there on the plains of Auburn. So that's got to be very exciting news as you look forward to what the future can hold for the Auburn Tigers. But here's some other good news, right? You thought that was the good news. I know this was something that came up and it's kind of been swept under the rug, right? Because the season's been going on. But this was something that people were not happy about a little while ago, and now it seems like it's going to be a little better, and that is in regards to season tickets for Auburn next season, right? Because we remember they were supposed to play Baylor at Auburn. That game got moved to Atlanta, and some people were not happy. Oh, well, I don't want to go to Atlanta for a game. Oh, I don't want to be charged for an extra game that I'm not going to be able to go to because it's not in Auburn. Well, the good news is Auburn has heard your complaints. They've heard your feedback, and they are going to do a solid for the Auburn family. So this was announced. John Cohen, he addressed a letter to the Auburn fans last night celebrating the retention of DJ Durkin and the hiring of Alex Golish. And he mentioned this at the very end of the letter. This is from John Cohen's letter last night. Quote, the 2026 season ticket packages include the Auburn and Baylor game in Atlanta and will cost less than our 2025 packages. Fans who cannot attend the game in Atlanta may opt out and receive an additional reduction on their 2026 home ticket prices. So that's good news if you're an Auburn fan. If you can go to Atlanta and go to the Baylor game, that'll be an awesome experience. But if you say, hey, I want to go to all the games in Jordan-Hare, but I can't make it to Atlanta, you're still going to be able to do that, and you're not going to have to pay extra for a game that you maybe don't want to or are going to be unable to attend. So I think that was a great move by Auburn, reducing the prices for even next year, right? Because, again, I think we all understand they're going to keep selling out. They've been selling out, and they've been not a great program for the last few years, and they're continuing to have that fan support. So,
but they've been close.
They have been close
to being a great program. Have they not? They've been very close.
Very close.
Extremely close. They've had their moments.
Maybe too close.
Yeah. But also, hey, at least when you looked out in the crowd, you noticed that, hey, the passion is still there.
Absolutely.
No matter what.
And you heard that from Alex Golish in his introductory press conference. He brought up the fact that how many, 30 straight sellouts it's been in Jordan-Hare Stadium, and how even in, let's be honest, maybe not the best of times for the program, the fan support continues to be there. And that is part of what we know makes Auburn so very special. So good news there yesterday if you're an Auburn fan. Season ticket package is going to be more affordable, and they're going to work with you if you don't want to go or can't go to the Baylor game in Atlanta. And you're going to get to watch DJ Durkin continue to run your defense next year, whether that's in Atlanta or Jordan-Hare. So a good day yesterday for the Auburn Tigers as well. But this time, each and every week, we do like to go visit with our buddy Brian Edwards. A lot of big games coming up. Conference championship weekend. We've got the NFL still going on, maybe even a little college basketball, all that good stuff going on. So Brian Edwards, he'll give us his favorite plays for a jam-packed weekend next here on Jocks. Brian Edwards, our favorite Vegas insider, going to join us here on the program. Appreciate you joining us here on this Wednesday. We've got a ton of early signing day news to get to coming up in the next hour. Alabama and Auburn, what's the latest on the recruiting trail for both of them, as well as the rest of the country? What are some names to keep an eye on there? But let's bring in Brian Edwards. We enjoy talking to him each and every Wednesday at this time, Brian. And I hope you got some good sleep last night because that was an exciting basketball game last night. Unfortunately, your Gators came up a little short, but that was, for my money at least, one of the more entertaining games we've gotten so far this year.
Yeah, it was. I mean, no moral victories ever. Wish we'd have got that obvious goaltending call.
Yeah.
But I had the Gators plus the points and the under, and our guards. I mean, we can't. We were 341 out of 365 Division I teams in the country in 3-point accuracy going into last night. And I'm sure it only got worse. I mean, when you can't buy a three all night, and you only lose by one at Duke. Again, no moral victory, but I was encouraged by Boogie Flan playing much better, and Xavier and Lee will get going at some point. So we just got to get better 3-point shooting. We'll be fine later in the year. No excuses on the L, but
you stole my joke there, Brian. I was going to ask if you wanted an autographed Xavier and Lee jersey for Christmas because a lot of people not happy with that right now.
They're not, but I mean, you can tell the guy can play. He's just in a shooting slump. I think he'll come around, but if not, Klavzar can get more minutes. He's playing good right now. But anyway, I came away a little encouraged, even in defeat.
All right, Brian, taking a look at conference championship weekend. Okay, I understand, the matchup in the SEC championship between Georgia and Alabama. But what I'm still trying to figure out is why is Georgia still being favored over Alabama when we know how this game usually goes?
Great question. Don't understand it. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. Alabama, since Stafford threw that touchdown in overtime at Bryant-Denny in overtime in 2007, since then, Alabama's 10-1 against Georgia, and let's be honest, if Jamison Williams and John Mechie don't blow their knees out, they would be 11-0. Alabama all day.
I'm glad you said it, not me, Brian.
That's right. Alabama, let's see, is it still 2.5? Yeah, it's still 2.5. I don't really care if it's 1.5, 2, or 2.5. I would just hold off and hope we get a 3 later in the week because I don't care if it moves to 1.5 or 2. I think Bama's going to win outright, but just in case, if a 3 pops later in the week, I'd just be patient on it and hopefully get 3 later in the week.
All right, let's look at the Big 12, Brian. I know a lot of people here were going to have a lot of eyeballs on that game. Maybe now with Alabama getting a little bit of a cushion there in the playoff rankings, this result not directly impacting them. But Texas Tech and BYU, we saw this game earlier in the year. Texas Tech stomped them. What are you on this one? Do you think Texas Tech does it again, or can BYU make this one close and potentially even get the upset?
No, I think this one's going to be a blowout. Texas Tech 11-1 straight up, 10-2 against the spread. They beat BYU 29-7 as a 13.5-point home favorite, but that was the win by 22 despite settling for short field goals of 27-39, 29-34, and Texas Tech normally doesn't settle for field goals. This one's going to be a beatdown. I think Texas Tech wins by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Also did its team total over 30.5. They are number 2 in the country in scoring, 47.1 points per game average. They've scored at least 34 in 10 of their 12 games. And like I said, if they don't settle for those short field goals, it would be 11 of 12, including the BYU game. But it wasn't, but it will be this time.
All right, let's take a look at the NFL. We know tomorrow night we've got the Cowboys and the Lions. I'm expecting a lot of points because Dallas can't really play defense, and Detroit, I know they have been in a little bit of a slump, but are you expecting a lot of points tomorrow night?
I am, but it's a high total. I think it's 54 last time I looked. I'm just going to go with Detroit because in bounce back mode, they are pretty much automatic. 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread this year when coming off a loss. But going back all the way to early November of 2023, the Lions, when they're coming off a loss, they've won 12 in a row, 11-1 against the spread, 10 wins by double-digit margins. Dallas is obviously playing well, 3-game winning streak. But 2 of those were at home. The road win was at lowly Las Vegas. They're only 2-4 straight up, 3-3 ATS on the road this year. Give me the Lions -3.
All right, let's stick with the NFL here. We got a game with first place in the NFC North, believe it or not, on the line in the month of December with the Bears. Who would have ever thought that we would be saying that? But that's exactly where we are. Bears, they're traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Packers getting about a touchdown favorite right now. Brian, how do you see this one playing out on Sunday?
I like the Bears.
There we go.
If you're number 6.5, maybe by that half point to 7. But yeah, I like the Bears. They've won 5 in a row, 9 of their last 10, 8-2 ATS in that stretch. Last 6 as an underdog, 5-1 both straight up in ATS. Last 5 games, Caleb Williams 8-1, TDINT ratio. And look, the Bears are live to win this game outright as well. More on them +7, but maybe get a little small taste of the money line as well.
All right, I got one more for conference championships as we look at college football. How about Indiana and Ohio State? Is Ohio State really the number 1 team? Because they are favored by a small margin over Indiana, but could you see Indiana plus the points?
I could, but here's my plan. I see it's back up to 4.5 or 5. I've seen a few 4s pop last night. I'm not against the play on Indiana. But my game plan is, I hope Ohio State gets an early lead and I can get Indiana on a live bet or a halftime bet at +7 or more. I just want to get greedy and get a better number. If that doesn't come to fruition, no worries. I don't have to have action on that game. But if I get a live or halftime opportunity with Indiana getting 7 or more, I'm pretty sure I'll take that.
All right, Brian, we got a lot of great college basketball coming up tonight. I know a lot of people are excited for the weekend of football, but if you want some action tonight, ACC, SEC challenge going on tonight. What are some matchups there? Any in particular that you've got your eye set on for tonight in that ACC, SEC challenge?
Well, what's the story on Wrightsell? If I were confident he were playing, I might maybe lay the points.
He is day-to-day still, from what I understand, so your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great. So what I will do is I will lay the 10.5 with Vandy at home to SMU. Vandy quietly 8-0, and they are just winning in blowout fashion every game, except for the Western Kentucky game. They won by 5. Every other win by 15 or more, including wins over St. Mary's and VCU. They beat St. Mary's, number 34 in Ken Palm, by 25 the other day. SMU's undefeated, but they haven't really played anybody. Only Butler and Mississippi State in the top 100 of Ken Palm. Needed overtime to beat Mississippi State. I like Vandy tonight.
All right, there he is, Brian Edwards. We appreciate each and every week, man. Talk to you next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you. That is Brian Edwards, Vegas Insider and MajorWager.com. We didn't get time for it, but he also likes JSU +2.5 against Kennesaw State. Something to keep an eye on there. Well, 1 hour down, 3 left to go. Let's talk some recruiting. It's early signing day. What's going on for Alabama and Auburn? That's next.